Vegas, and I am finally in the Nissan Z. I have been waiting for this car for so long, and I cannot be more excited to drive it. But today I'm gonna find out if all the hype was real for this thing. Yo, okay. These turbos kick on stupid fast, and I've barely driven this thing. 400 horsepower, almost 400 foot-pounds of torque. And before I forget, right out the gate, when it comes to the interior first impressions, it is miles ahead of the 370Z. Don't get me wrong, the door handles here, they're very like the 370. The massive digital dash is not distracting. I actually really like it. The user interface is very simple. At first, I thought the color match interior would look really tacky, but I was wrong. It looks pretty dope. Also, the material on the door right here, it's like Alcantara, but it's dyed Alcantara to be this nice blue. I thought this was gonna be like some blue leather, kind of like on the dash, but this is a really nice touch right here. Viva Las Vegas. Holy smokes. Oh my God, are you kidding? I've driven everything from the Datsun 240Z, 260, and 280Z. I've also driven the Z32 300ZX twin turbo. I've driven the 350, the 350 Nismo, the 370, the 370 Nismo. I actually made a trip down to Z1 Motorsports in Carrollton, Georgia, and they let me drive their quote-unquote prototype Nissan Z. They took the 370Z and they put the Q50 Red Sport engine inside it to give it kind of a decent basis of what this car might be like. And it was really easy to judge this car because, hey, it's a 370Z chassis for the most part. It's kind of a, you know, carryover. But I can tell you right off the bat, it doesn't really feel like a carryover because the powertrain is so different. Like, this feels nothing like the VQ engine whatsoever. This car is every bit of 400 horsepower that they advertised. Listen to that. Those tires are just struggling to keep up. Yeah, second gear is money, dude. Yeah, grazing, just like this. The turbos, what I was really worried about was having a Turbo Z, or a new modern Z, having some lag, right? I was kind of scared of that being the case. What makes the 350 and 370 so great for drifting and everything else is the natural aspiration response. But this is gonna have more than enough power to drift. That's not an issue whatsoever. Now, my biggest complaint of the theoretical biggest competitor of this car, the Toyota Supra, is can I drive with the windows down? Yes! The reason being because the buffering was so bad in the Supra, you just couldn't even drive it at all. I'm also driving the 6-speed manual. This morning, I sprinted to the press fleet for you guys to get the manual. There's also a 9-speed automatic, which I will touch on later, which a 9-speed's pretty rad, but the 9-speed actually comes out of the Nissan Titan. They use a magnesium case, which is pretty rad. They use that transmission because it has a lot more torque and can take it. Now, this 6-speed manual, it feels crisp. The rev matching is still there. That option is still there as a carryover from the 370. Before I forget, I love this detail. They said that the R32 GTR was essentially rated or pulled as the favorite GTR steering wheel out of the Skyline generations. So they modeled the new Nissan Z's steering wheel off of the R32 GTR. Dimensions, the way it grips, the positioning, the angle of it, all of that. They use the R32 GTR as a basis. The reason they said that is they noticed that people with the Skylines were replacing the steering wheels in the 33s and the 34s, but they weren't replacing them in the 32s because people loved them. Also, with how bright Las Vegas is, it is so tough to get this blue interior, how deep the color is. It is beautiful. I mean, maybe I can get it here. It is such a pretty color. It's really well done. These are definitely a carryover from the 370Z, but you could argue it's heritage, so I guess they get a pass. Also, there's a little SOS button in case I need to get help. Nope, don't touch it. And when Nissan said they were gonna build a new Z, I was like, is it really gonna happen? Is the prototype really actually gonna happen? I personally like the looks of the car. It's a very divisive car, especially the front. A lot of people don't like the front because of the grille. Now, when they told us about the grille, I knew it was coming. They said, look, the grill is this big because of cooling. Now you have an intercooler, and then you have the radiator. You have all this stuff going on to cool this engine down because it's a lot of heat. I actually like the 300ZX inspired taillights. And also they have this nice hip in the back. The car has these beautiful hips. By driving the 280s, you can tell. It feels like you're driving the modern 280Z, in my opinion. And it makes me happy. It's pretty rad. So as you can see, the sound is just buttery smooth. It's a very serene hum. It's not this really aggressive trumpet VQ. All right, does first gear hook? Up, chirp third, let's go. Going around corners, I went around a sweeper at a pretty decent speed. Felt pretty good. Because the 370 could get real tail happy real fast and not in like a fun way sometimes. This just goes, dude. All right. Yeah, man. And you stop on a dime. It's so nice. Yeah, fourth gear, traction control is like, dog, what are you doing? Okay, so there's definitely some kind of stability control still on going through those pulls, but man, the thing's fast, dude. Don't get it twisted. This thing's fast. So one thing about the Z though is even though it does feel grippier than the 370, it does under some conditions feel a little bit more floaty in the nose compared to something like the GR86, which I know the GR86 has like half the horsepower and it's easier to manage and all that good stuff. You could hit your peak of performance driving in that car. This one you'll definitely have to be more careful in. That's the best way I can put it. I present to you the largest gas store in production. Actually, I don't know. It just looks massive. With a $10,000 difference between the sport trim and the performance trim, I really thought the Nissan Z at first would be a lot more of a bargain than say its rival, the Toyota Supra. But with the manual Supra coming with its similar price of $52,000, I'm starting to wonder if that's going to be the case. Quick break, two things. One, I wish there was more than one driving mode, because as far as I can tell, I don't see a driving mode button. I don't think there's different dynamic modes or anything like that for suspension tuning or anything along those lines. At the same time, the traction control does not go all the way off. And I know that for some people it doesn't really matter, but for Nissan to have this kind of legacy of drifting and sliding cars and stuff like that, it's starting to get to me a little bit, because sometimes when I was going to those 3 to 4 shifts in this video, it would just start pulling timing and it wouldn't just let the car do its thing. I just really hope that there's a way to turn everything off, like stability control, traction control, all that stuff. That way we can have that legendary Nissan legacy of sliding cars. And as far as I can tell, it would be very, very difficult to slide this car. And I know the average customer, it doesn't matter, but for enthusiasts who want to maybe turn this into a drift car one day, or they want to do crazy stuff with it because they have permission somewhere, especially with things like the GR86, which you can just do whatever you want with. Like a perfect example of this is I was in top of third gear, shifting into fourth, and the whole car would just buck forward, right? It would pull timing, pull power, and it was just like, wait a minute, I already hit the traction control button. That shouldn't be happening. And so that is one thing I did notice. Base trim, or like the sport trim, that unfortunately doesn't come with a limited slip differential. I was really hoping it did, but that's one of the few things. The trims right above it, they do have the limited slip differential. Now, pricing. Let's talk about pricing. The sport trim model of this car starts at $39,000. They did it. They kept it pretty low in today's inflated market. But the next trim is like $49,000, and then the launch edition, which is $52,000. Now the launch edition only has 240 cars, that's it, and it's in that yellow. It's the signature Proto Z yellow. And a lot of the times when I drive a new sports car, you want to make sure that you don't just get excited because it's a new sports car, right? You want to be sure that you're subjective and objective about it. So Nissan had a really good way of putting this car versus, say, the R32 GTR. Both cars have 53 years of history. This one, though, is the dance partner. And I was like, well, what do they mean by dance partner? Well, they literally mean this car is all about how it makes you feel, the emotion of it, and also having the manual transmission, the feedback through the steering wheel. And what I loved about it, though, when they brought up the R35, they're like, the R35 is the mobile suit. By mobile suit, they mean basically like a Gundam, like, or a mech. They're like, yeah, that's basically a human driving a mech with all the electronics helping them out. Pulled over for a quick break, but I didn't realize that the top gauges were boost gauge, turbo speed, how many RPMs your turbo is, and then voltage, like the old cars. So first gear is very short. My buddy Garrett from American Muscle HD on Instagram, he came out and reviewed the Z yesterday in this timeline, and he said, watch out for that first gear. It'll get you. It's aggressive. It's fast though. The gearing's short, but it's fun. It has a manual e-brake. No electronic e-brake bullcrap here. So happy about that. Also, one other thing is this really nice little duckbill on the back. You think it wouldn't make that much of a difference, but it's this tiny spoiler that really helps it out. On the downhill, dude, yeah, this thing is pulling my temples back, dude. The 370 did not do that. Let's also talk about the name, the Nissan Z. Everybody still wants to call it the 400Z because that's naturally what a lot of people wanted to say. But the thing is about the 400Z is that typically the Z name was under displacement. The 350Z was a 3.5 liter, the 370 was a 3.7 liter, you get it. But with this, they're like, no, well, we're basically changing displacement again, but it's not going up, so why would we call it the 400Z? It is so rad to know that it's like a true thrill in today's sports car market. It's not like, hey, we put this infinity motor in the 370Z's chassis. Like, that's what I was scared of, right? And I know that's downplaying the R&D and the development of this car. That's not fair. I know a lot of people worked hard on this car. It's a looker, man. People are breaking their neck looking at this thing. I had 2 people roll down their window and go, what is that? And that's usually a good sign of a car. Somebody's interested in what a car is. If they're asking, I don't even know what that is. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the Nissan Z, what do I think of it? I think this is a drastic improvement to the 370Z. The interior is probably the thing that really impacted me the most. I know that sounds crazy because of the new engine and everything. This engine is something we've seen before, and I don't mean that in a negative way. I just kind of know how it goes about. It's business, right? The turbo spool is really intoxicating. The engine is a powerhouse. There's no doubt about that. But the question is, when are these available to order? Because I think a lot of people are kind of itching for that moment to get their hands on one. And on that note, I upload on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays, and I will see you guys next time. Take it easy. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.